Banana Twist, Chapter 5. It has a lot to do with the stars. I'd gone down to the lobby to check our mailbox. I always check the mailbox every time I walked through the lobby, even if I just looked in it 10 minutes before. A voice behind me squawked, "Yipes! It finally came!" I turned around. Goober was waving an envelope as if it was a flag. I moved away quickly from our mailbox so he couldn't see which one I'd been going to open. His eyes darted from me to the envelope and back again. "Know what this is?" he asked. I shook my head. "It's that thing I sent for. I've been waiting 3 weeks. All our mail is late because it's being forwarded here, see?" His pimples glowed, his eyes bulged, his strange teeth shone darkly. "What thing you sent for?" I asked cautiously. He tore open the envelope. "Look!" he said, extracting from the envelope a pink sheet of paper. "It's my horoscope, my special one. I sent in for it, with the exact second of my birth and the exact place I was born. It's all very scientific, you know." He scowled briefly. He glanced at the pink sheet. "Very, very interesting," he muttered. "This will be very helpful." "I didn't know you were interested in astrology," I said, edging farther away from our mailbox, so that he wouldn't even have a clue to who I was or where I lived. "I'm interested in everything," he said. "Later I can sort things out and select the few areas of interest that I want to concentrate on." He peered again at the pink sheet of paper. Then he squinted over at me. "I can send for a horoscope for you," he said. He reached in his pocket and took out a pencil stub. "Just give me your name and the exact moment of your birth and exact place." Clever. "I don't remember," I said. "It only costs a quarter," he insisted. "I'll ask my folks," I told him. "Maybe they'll remember. I'll let you know." I started edging away. He followed me. "You'd learn a lot from a horoscope. You'd learn why you're different from other people. It has a lot to do with the stars. It might help you to solve some of your problems." I kept edging away, and he kept following, his face screwed up into an odd new arrangement. I'd never seen anyone who rearranged his features as often and with as little success as Goober. I had to get rid of him some way. I walked over to the elevator. Politely, I stood aside, holding the door while he went in. I followed him, still holding the door open. Then I let it go and jumped out of the elevator quickly. "Forgot something! See you later!" I said as the door closed. Victory. He still didn't know who I was or where I lived. But I knew my days were numbered. I decided to walk all the way up to the 14th, 13th floor to get the adrenaline out of my system. I'd have to work on the questionnaire today for sure. I sighed. If I wasn't worrying about Goober and getting away from him, I was worrying about the questionnaire. Right now, it felt good to worry about the questionnaire, because it kept my mind off Goober. It was like having a toothache and dropping a rock on your foot so you could forget about the toothache. I finally made it up to our floor. I settled down in front of the television set with the questionnaire, puffing. The stairs and the encounter with Goober had nearly done me in. One of the hardest parts was the section on hobbies. They'd left a lot of space to fill in, which meant they were expecting everyone to fill in a lot of stuff. My hobbies and why I have chosen them. I didn't have any hobbies. Watching television wouldn't sound like a real Fairly boy. I'd never needed hobbies before, but I needed some now. I decided the day before to say that one of my hobbies was reading, because that sounded intellectual. I'd figured out my reason for choosing that hobby. Reading stimulates my mind and enables me to experience vicariously the lives of others. That in turn helps to enlarge my own intellectual horizons. I'd really worked on that one. I didn't add that all I read was comic books and murder mysteries. Now, sitting in front of the TV, I read over that bit about reading. I didn't want to sound too intellectual. A Fairly boy is a balanced boy, so I needed a balance, to balance the reading a bit. Suddenly, I thought about Goober and his fish, and I put down raising tropical fish. Actually, that was partly true. If it hadn't been for me, Goober's fish would have died. But the reason I'd chosen that, I couldn't for the life of me decide. I read the catalog one more time, hoping to get an inspiration. There was a picture of Fairly boys standing around a dinner table, with their eyes shut. I was pretty sure they weren't all sleeping, so I figured they were saying grace or something. Maybe I could throw in something about religion, or God, or both. Finally, I wrote, learning about God's creatures enables me to understand and appreciate the many varied forms of life in this world. I almost wrote Amen after that. It was the second time I'd used the word enables, but maybe they wouldn't notice. It sounded much more intellectual than helps. I wondered if 2 hobbies would be enough. Probably not for the well-rounded Fairleigh boy. There was still lots of space left. I'd have to come up with a sport to make me really well-rounded. I couldn't think of anything that I could safely put down, because whatever it was, they'd expect me to play it if I ever got to Fairleigh. I put the questionnaire away and concentrated on television. I get lots of my ideas from television. And sure enough, there was a commercial for some soft drink, and it had these 2 mountain climbers climbing up, and finally reaching the top and finding this soft drink up there. What about mountain climbing as my hobby? There weren't even any hills around Fairleigh, so they'd never find out whether I knew how to climb mountains or not. I thought about it for the next couple of programs, and I finally wrote down mountain climbing as my 3rd hobby. And for my reason, I wrote, the challenge of a mountain is simply this. If it is there, I must get to the top. The mountain represents to me the best, the summit of my own self. I want to attain whatever heights in me are possible. Wow. Maybe I'd poured it on a little too thick and gooey, but the way I figured it, it couldn't be too thick or gooey for Fairleigh. Any school that would have in its catalog things like, send us your boy today and we'll send a man back to you tomorrow, and with pride and strength and quiet joy I say I am a Fairleigh boy, would be impressed with by any phony mismatch I could come up with. At least I'd finished the section on hobbies. Reading, raising tropical fish, mountain climbing. And I'd had to neglect my real one, watching television, just to dream up the phony ones. I'd have a lot of catching up to do once I'd nailed down the questionnaire.